All right, in this video tutorial, we're going to be looking at working in a 3D program, and we're going to be using SketchUp, and it's specifically going to be for modeling a dresser for woodworking inside of SketchUp. So this is what the finished product is going to be looking like here. You can see the finished model product, and then I'll also do the entire build. So I model it, and then I actually build this dresser from start to scratch here on my second channel, where I do woodworking projects and other things like that. So go ahead and check that final video out as well. If you have any questions, go ahead and post those in the comments. There's a second video in this series which also deals with generating the cut list. So at the end, I'll post a link to that in the description as well. So don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do is go ahead and create a new document here in SketchUp. And we can get rid of this little default character here. You can just select him there and press delete. Now, what we're going to be modeling, I'm going to show you the finished product over here on the right that I have finished modeling. So this is the complete dresser. It kind of looks like this. And if we hide this top panel, you can see down in there, the drawers are fully in place. And you can also see we even have some fancy miters here to do these little knockouts, where the bottom of our drawers will slide inside of. So those are the little dados we'll cut out here. And that's kind of what it looks like. We also have a little bit of a notch we'll cut out here. So this is a finished product, and we're going to go from scratch all the way to complete modeling, including how to do the cut list generation. So let's go ahead and get started. Now the first thing we're going to do is create a little 2x2 right here in the corner. So I'm going to grab my rectangle tool. You can hit R, keyboard shortcut, and we'll come over here to our origin point and just click and move out anywhere. It doesn't really matter how big. You can pay attention to the dimensions in the bottom right hand corner. You kind of always want to keep half an eye on this, as that will tell you how big your boxes are. But once you click, you can then immediately choose what dimension you want. So I can say 1.5 inches, comma, 1.5 inches. That's the X and the Y. And go ahead and hit return, and it will automatically set that to that dimension. Now we need to zoom in here because we're going to be working on this back leg first. Now on this back leg, we're going to have a little piece cut out right around here where we're going to be fastening the back of our dresser onto. So you can see that little piece is this little piece right here, and the entire dresser back will fasten on there. So in order to do that, we need to cut out the geometry here from this little square first. So we can do that several different ways, but I'll show you how to do it just with the pencil tool here. So you can grab your pencil tool. Sorry, I said the pencil tool. First, we want to grab the tape measure tool. So grab the tape measure tool, click over here, come over out 0.5 inches and hit return. And that'll set a point there at 0.5. And then we can also do the same thing here. And if we click and move this way on the red axis here, you can see if you hold down shift, it'll sort of constrain it. And this way we're going to come in 0.25 inches and hit return. And that sets a little gauge there. So this is ½ inch in and ¼ inch this way. Now that we have these 2 points, these are sort of what we call guide points. I can grab my rectangle tool, and then I can just start right here at this guide point and just pull straight out and click right there. So now I've got a little line or a little segment there. And now if I get my select tool, spacebar there, I can just single click on that face there and press the delete key to cut that little piece of geometry out. And then I need to grab these 2 pieces. Now, if you click and drag from right to left, it will highlight anything wherever they overlap. However, if you drag from left to right, notice how nothing highlights. So dragging from left to right requires the entire piece of geometry like this. So just kind of a little heads up there. So we'll drag from left to right, just delete those 2 lines. And while we're at it here, we can get our spacebar tool and we can get rid of those little guide points that we added in there. We don't really need those, so we can just delete those like so. All right, so there's that little piece cut out. Now let's zoom out here with the mouse wheel. Just a little tip here. When you click and hold the middle mouse button, it goes ahead and does a rotation. You can see like this. And if you hold down shift and click the middle mouse wheel, it does a pan. And if you use the mouse wheel in and out, you'll zoom in and out like so. So that's the little keyboard shortcuts for working with this SketchUp program, and that's primarily the 3 ways you'll sort of orbit and pan around your design. So let's go ahead next and extrude this. So what we're going to do is we are going to grab the push and pull tool. It's right up here on the keyboard. You can hit P to get to that. And you just come over here to a face and click. And notice I can pull or I can push, depending on which way you want to think about that. And all you have to do is push up a little bit and then let go. And I can then type in the dimension or how far I want that guy to push. Now I know that the dresser I'm modeling is 44 inches tall. That's the finished dimension. But on the very top, I'm going to have a big top part of the dresser that's 3/4 inch. So I'm going to set this to 42.75 inches. And you can either do decimals or you can do fractions when you're setting these. And then I go ahead and hit return, and you can see that now creates this back leg. So there's one back leg done. Now let's go ahead and come over here and create our second one. So for this, we can just grab again our rectangle tool here and come out here and create this little guy. So I'm going to create, well, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Before we do this, every single time you create a piece of wood or a unit, you want to do what's called convert this to a component. So I'm going to single click, we'll select a face. Double clicking selects the face and all the sides that can join there, and triple clicking selects the entire geometry. So once we have it all triple clicked or selected, I can do Command Shift G, or I can right click and say make a component. So we're going to turn this into a component, and I'm just going to call this the back leg and go ahead and hit create. And you can see once you've turned it into a component, this is sort of treated like a group where I can just click it and it highlights the entire unit instead of just this single face. The reason why we need to create components is, one, it will help us do our cut list later on, and two, it prevents other pieces of material from joining up to this one and creating a unified shape. So by sort of creating components, we sort of group things and they won't try to intersect and overlap. So now that we have the back leg, let's come in here and go ahead and create our next piece. So I can just go ahead and get my rectangle tool here again. I'm just going to create this one right next to this guy. And again, it doesn't really matter the size because I can say 1.5, comma 1.5 and hit return. And that will size just perfectly to scale. Now before I extrude this front leg, I need to position it. Now I know that my dresser is 18 inches deep outside to outside. So if I get my move tool and I come over here and select this point right here, I need to move it out. This is 1.5 inches wide. So if I, whoops, sorry, I grabbed the wrong thing. I need to make sure I have the correct point here. I'll just grab this one and move it in. First I need to select it, select it. So get the move tool and triple click that. Then you can get your move tool, and let's just move this guy really quick back to the origin. And now I can grab this end point right here and click and start to drag, and I'm dragging along the red axis, and if you hold down shift, it'll kind of make a constraint there. So again, I can just pull this out anywhere and let go. I know that I need to come out 18 inches to the front, and this is 1.5 inches wide. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and extrude this one now. So again, I'll pull up, and this is going to be the same 42.75, hit return, and those guys now should be level there on top. Now, this should be 18 inches, and another handy feature here is just to double check yourself. If you're not sure, you can come up to your tools and grab the dimensions tool. And this allows you to just pull some lines. So I can click the end point here and measure over to the front here, and then pull this up, and you can see, sure enough, that is 1 foot 6 inches, or 18 inches deep. So you can pull those up at any time and they stay part of the geometry. You can just get your select tool and click those guys and just delete those out if you don't want those. Okay, so that's the front and the back legs. Now let's go ahead and convert this to a component. So triple click, Command Shift G. We'll call this the front leg and hit create. So now I have two components here. And next we're going to build in this middle panel. Now I know that I want my feet off the ground here. You can see from the model just a couple of inches. So we want to build this middle panel 2 inches up off the ground. So let's go ahead and come back here. And our middle panel is actually going to sit on the back side flush. So let's start back here. This will be a little bit easier. So we need to just grab, let's just kind of work with the tape measure tool and practice this. So we can come down here and then we can come up 2 inches and hit return. Whoops, if I can do that again, 2 inches, hit return. And that sets our little guide point right there for us. So now we can grab our rectangle tool, and let's go ahead and grab the rectangle tool. We can come right down to that point, come over here to this face, and click there, and then hold down Shift and just pull. This one's going to go all the way to the top. So we're going to come clear up to the top. I'm holding down Shift here to constrain and click. So there's our back panel, and we need to extrude. So we'll get our push-pull tool and just push this out and say 0.75 and hit return. And there we go. That's now 3/4 inches. That's going to be our plywood. So let's go ahead and convert this guy to a component. So we'll get our select tool, triple click it, Command Shift G, and we'll just call this the, I don't know, dresser side, and hit create. So now we have that in place. We need to model in, we're going to model in two 1x2s sort of across here to kind of make it look like it was a floating panel. So the next piece is going to be these guys. So let's do those. Let's come down here, and we'll start off with the bottom one. So we can come in here and grab our tool again. Now, because we created that guide point, we could go in there and delete that if we want to clean up our geometry. I'll just leave it for now. So we're going to come in here and we'll get our tape measure. And this one, we actually don't need to use the tape measure because this is already up the proper distance here. So we'll just get our rectangle tool and grab this point right here. So we'll start here and we'll come along the green axis. So you can see we're coming along green right over, and then click right there, and then just all the way up. Need to zoom out here a bit. Actually, I'm gonna, instead of going up that side, I'm just gonna come over here to the bottom. So we'll kind of pull this way. There we go, and constrain right there and click right there, and we're done. We'll get our push pull and pull this guy up. It's gonna be 1.5 inches, and there we go. So let's go ahead and select it with our select tool, triple click, Command Shift G, and we'll just call this the dresser side. We'll call this a dresser side runner or something like that. Okay, go ahead and hit OK. Now we can duplicate this guy up to the top. So here's how we can duplicate objects. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the move tool once we have our component highlighted there, and we're going to click this top anchor point right here because we want that to be flush with the top up here. So what we're going to do is we're going to click that point and then push the shift, sorry, not the shift key, the option key. You can see that creates a copy of this guy. And then I can just move right up along this face. I can hold down Shift, come all the way to the top, and then just click it right into place right there. So that is our dresser side. Now that we have the entire dresser side modeled, we're going to highlight everything and just group all of these components into one group. So we can come up in here to the edit menu and say make group. You can see it's Command G, and that just creates a group. So you can see now that they're a group, I can move all of those components as a single unit. So the group is made up of multiple components. Now what we need to do is just kind of duplicate this over to this other side. Now I know that my dresser, this one that I've modeled, is 34 inches from outside to outside dimensions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this point right here. So with my move tool, I'm going to grab this point right there and click. You can see the little point I'm trying to grab there. So I'll grab that guy. And then again, I'm going to hit Option for a copy. And then I'm going to start to slide along the green axis and then hold down Shift. And move all the way out here and just click somewhere. So I want this to be 34 inches minus 1.5 inches width. So that is 32.5. So 32.5 inches, hit return, and then that slots right into place. Now you can see the issue here is that this guy needs to rotate around because right now it's, it's an exact copy. So we're going to select this left side, right click and say flip along the group's green, flip along its own green axis. So you can see once I click that, it essentially flips this guy around, and now those two inside miters right there fit right how they're supposed to. And of course the inside is nice and flush because we're going to be hooking all of our sliding brackets along there, which will make that nice and easy on the inside of the dresser. So that is how we do our dresser sides. Pretty easy and straightforward. So let's now spin around here to the front side. And I'm going to save my project. I don't think I've saved this guy, so I'm going to hit Command S, and I'll just call this the dresser model video here, and hit save. Okay, to do this little front stretcher runner here, we're going to do this one with a pencil tool just to show you an alternate way of working here. So I can come up here and let's just get right on this inner point right here, and I'm going to slide. I'm not clicking yet. I'm just following this red axis down, you can see, and I want it to be right there. So I'm just sliding down till we click in. So it's right on that face, you can see. And I'm just going to single click. I'm going to move up and just click anywhere and say 1.5 inches because that's how tall those are. And you can see I'm still selected here. So now I'm going to kind of pan over to this side, and along the green axis, I'm going to click right here. And then right down there, you can see it gives me the same edge. Click right there, spin around this way, and then all the way back to the beginning and click right there. So we've created that little face right there. We'll grab our push pull and then push out 0.75 inches and hit return. And that's going to be the little bottom runner there on the bottom of the dresser. Now, while we're at it, let's just take this guy and create a component. So we're going to double click this, and we're going to go ahead and do Command Shift G, and we'll call this the dresser runners. Well, there's going to be a lot of these. We're actually going to have this duplicated 6 or 7 times, so I'm not going to say like bottom and top here. I'll just call them the runners. And maybe we'll call them dresser front runners. And hit create. So now that we got this, we need one more of these guys back in the very back. So again, we're going to duplicate this. And let's spin over on this back side because we'll be able to see where we're going to align it here. We're going to hit the move tool, and we're going to select that point right there. Click Option to create a copy, and then just hold down Shift as we want this guy to come right up against that face right there. We don't want to come into this geometry because we want that little back piece. So we're going to come right along that little edge. And hit return. So there's the bottom piece, which looks great. Now we need this guy to be sort of duplicated up to the top. So we're going to grab this front one, and we're going to grab this top piece here. And like we just did before, we'll click, make sure we get the right geometry. We'll click right here, Option, hold down Shift, and this one we're going to move all the way up to the top right here. Now, this guy is actually going to get rotated. You can see from our final model here, the bottom one is front facing, and then all the rest of these middle ones are sort of on their sides, if you will. So we need to use the rotate tool. So what we do is we get our select tool, and we select this piece right here, not the move tool. I accidentally grabbed the move tool, the select tool, and select it. Then we grab the rotate tool. And if you hover along these faces, you can see I'm not getting the correct orientation. So what I do is I hover over into this face over here, and then it switches to the correct side. So I want this very top piece right there. So I can single click, I can move over, click, and then I just rotate. You can see here 90 degrees. You can type in 90 and hit return. But I just rotated using the guides. And now that guy's rotated properly. Now I can get my move tool, grab this piece, hold down Shift, and then just move him right back into place. So that's where that guy is going to go like so. Now it also has to get duplicated back in here to this edge as well. So let's go ahead and just create a copy while we're at it. Click this point right there, hold down Option and Shift, and then this guy's going to move all the way to the back edge. Whoops, I do not know what I did, but I accidentally flipped this guy around. So I've got to right click him and say flip along green again. There we go. Let's try this again. So we will get this guy. Option, click, drag, and he's going to go right again to that point right there. Perfect. Okay, so now we have our bottom ones and the top ones all set up nice. And that looks just fine and dandy there. So let's go ahead and now create all the ones in between. So here's a nice little trick for us. Now we have to, in order to sort of guesstimate how wide all these guys, I know I need a bunch of dividers. You can see I'm gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And I would have to calculate the distance between the top and the bottom here, calculate how many of these runners I have, subtract that from the total and divide by the number of runners. And anyway, you have to do all this math to figure it out. But with SketchUp, it makes it really easy. So what I can do here is I'm going to get a couple of lines. I'm going to get my tape measure tool, and I'm going to pull a line over. So let's just grab here and pull a line all the way across like so. So I'm going to pull a line there, and then I'm also going to pull a line along the bottom. So I'll do one here and pull a line this way as well. So there's 2 lines pulled out. Now what I can do is I can also pull another line, or I can duplicate a line. So if you click a line like this and make sure you highlight the line, and then you can see I can hold down Option and duplicate it. So what we're going to do is we're going to hold down Option, and with this top line selected, we're going to get our move tool and then move this guy down all the way to the exact same spot as the bottom line. Okay, so let me do this again here. I'm going to pull this over a little bit cleaner here. So I'm going to grab this line, get my move tool, and pull it. Whoops, make sure we're pulling in the correct direction. Pull it along blue all the way down So I'm going to select the top line here, get my move tool, and then click here, hold down Option to create a copy, and then let's move down, make sure you're on the right axis. So I'm on blue, and we're going to move all the way down to this line and hit, you can see I'm coming over here to this point, and then click. Now before you do anything else, hit divide sign 5 and hit return. And that will basically divide this space into 5 equal pieces and automatically put little lines there. So it's really, really slick. Okay, so now we can just move these guys down. So I'm gonna get this guy, I'm working from these top points right here. So I'll click this, hold down Option, and this one's gonna come down on the blue plane, hit Shift, and then I'm gonna just align it right down to there. And then we'll just keep moving down, do the same thing, click Option, Shift, move this, whoops, make sure we're get on the right plane there. There we go. Move this guy over to there. Move down again, click this top piece here. Option, move this guy down right to there. Click the top, Option, Shift, constrain all the way down to there. And that's it. So we've just equally spaced all of those little drawer pieces all the way out. Now, just to kind of see, the math doesn't work out perfectly on this, as far as to the 1/16 of an inch anyway. So what we can do just to kind of show you is I'm going to grab the dimensions tool again and just pull these dimensions really quick so you can see. So this one right here, from here to here, these are all 7 1/8. So the openings here are 7 1/8. And then the very top one is going to be a little bit different. So we'll click this up here and here to here. And, oh, that's pulling along the wrong point. There we go. So you can see that those pull all out, but this is just rounding to the nearest, you'll see that this is just it's almost 1/8, but that's basically what the measurement is for all of those drawer dividers. Okay, now that we have all those drawer dividers in place, the last thing we need to model up here is we're going to model up our little divider right here, and then on the back as well. So because we're going to have 2 smaller drawers here on top. So what I'm going to do is copy over this one right here. So let's grab our move tool and we'll grab this guy. Make sure I get the right point. So we'll click right there, hold down Option. We're going to pull along red all the way. Can't really see, so I'm just going to click there and then plan this out and try again. Pull this along red right to the face right there. Okay, that looks great. Whoops, somehow I moved this one. Don't know what I did earlier, but let's fix this guy. So we'll click him and whoops, I clicked the wrong piece there. I want to click right here. Fix that guy up. There we go. Okay, whoops. I must have I hit Command Z a lot on accident, and not on accident, on purpose, and then I always forget to double check, make sure I didn't undo something, so I'll fix that guy. Okay, so that's how your dresser should be looking right now. And now let's go ahead and create this middle piece. So the distance here, if you click your mouse and just hover along a piece, you'll see there's an automatic midpoint that's right there. Once it turns to a circle, that's a midpoint. So I can click right here and come over, and we're just going to draw all the way down to this face. and then over this way until we get to 3/4. So we'll click right there on 3/4, and you can see right down here it says approximately 7 1/8, and that's because it's not exactly 7 1/8. So that's why you're getting that approximation sign there. Let's go ahead and push this guy out. So we'll get our push-pull tool and push him out 1.5 inches. Hit return, and then we need to create a component from this. So let's triple click and Command Shift G, and we'll call this just the drawer, I don't know, divider. How's that? And we'll hit create. And we need to duplicate this guy back here as well. So we'll click on this corner option, create a copy, hold down Shift to move him out, and right here to that face. Okay, so he'll be in there. Now we need to create the little piece in between where we can hang our hardware to slide the drawers in and out. So for this, we're just going to grab our rectangle tool and we'll click right here, and we're going to come down 4 inches. Whoops, I'm not sure why I just clicked it that way. So we're going to come down 4 inches. I'm just watching my dimensions until I get down to 4. There we go. And then we'll slide all the way over to this face and click. Now we'll just push this guy out again. So we'll get our push-pull tool, push out 0.75, hit return, get our select tool, triple click, and then call this the drawer spacer, something or else, and hit OK. And this guy, let's just go ahead and move up. So we're going to put its midpoint at this guy's midpoint. So we can get our move tool, we can hover over to its midpoint right there, and then hold down Shift and move up to this guy's midpoint and click right there. So now it's going to be perfectly centered between those two boards. So that's where our little divider there will sit, our hanger. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of all these lines now. Well, actually, I'm going to leave them. Sorry. I'm going to get rid of these dimensions for a minute, because we're going to use those lines in a minute when we actually build the drawers. Okay, so the last two pieces we need to model, well, not the last two, but we need to do these two pieces. So we're going to have these little runners that run across here just for structural support. So we're going to go ahead and model those next. So these guys are a specific dimension, and the reason why I made these an exact dimension is so that the cut list comes out pretty nice. These could really be any width you want, but so I'm going to come over here. I can't remember exactly what they are. I'm just going to run a little measurement here quick. Right here to right here, 1 7/8 of an inch. So let's get those and make those next. So we'll get our, let's do this with the pencil tool just to practice again. So we'll click, we'll come over here, 1 7/8 of an inch, and hit return and click. And then we'll come all the way over to this face and click, and then down here we should get a little bit of a guide here. When that measures up, I'm not sure. There we go. Now it's snapping. Then all the way back over to there. So that's that guy, and we'll just pull him down. It's going to be plywood. Let's pull actually the direction. So it's going to be 0.75 inch. We'll make that out of our 3/4 plywood and set him right there. And let's convert that into a component. We'll call this the structural runners. Hit OK. So we need one there, and then we need one at the bottom. So we'll just duplicate this guy. We'll click this bottom point option, hold down Shift and move him all the way down to right there, I believe. Let's double check, make sure we got that right. Yep, right down there at the bottom in the middle. So, whoops, that's definitely not in the middle. I didn't really pay attention to that when I created it. So let's just move these guys. So we'll hit move. We'll first select it. Get move, we'll select the midpoint again, click, and then just slide along here till we get the midpoint right there. Guess we might as well fix the bottom one while we're at it. So we'll spin underneath. Space to select it, get your move tool, find that midpoint, and then slide here. There's the midpoint right there. So now they're directly in the middle. Okay, we're spinning around here to the front, and that is pretty good. So let's go ahead and now model the drawers. So the drawers are going to probably be a bit trickier, but let's model those in place next. So in order to do this drawer face, we're going to build one drawer and then duplicate it 1, 2, 3, 4 times here. So I know that you have to set your reveal. I know I want a 1/4 of an inch reveal around my sort of my drawer faces, if you will. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab all of these lines right here. I have double duplicate there. Grab all these lines and I'm going to move them all up along blue 0.25 inches. Okay, and that's going to set that little bottom piece right there, right? You can see that. And then I'm going to just leave that there for a guide. Now, this is kind of fancy here, but what we're going to do is we're going to grab our rectangle tool and we're going to draw a face right on this corner all the way over to this corner. So it's going to cover that entire area. And now what we can use is this little tool right here. It's called the offset tool. So with the offset tool, you can click there and come along the face here and click, and you can see I can pull in an offset. And I want to pull this guy in 0.25 inches and hit return. And you can see that that sets that right on that 0.25 inches. And now I can just select this outer face and hit delete. And now I'm left with just this perfect little drawer face, if you will, that's going to be made out of our plywood. So let's grab our push pull and push this out. It's going to be 0.75 inches and hit return. So, and it's going to, the way my drawer is set up, it's going to perfectly sit in like that in the end. So let's go ahead and now we're going to triple click this, Command Shift G. We're going to call this the drawer face and hit create. So that looks great. And now that we have these little guidelines set up earlier, we can just duplicate this guy down a bunch of times. We're not going to do that right now because we need to build in the actual drawer. So what we're going to do is just spin over here to the back side and let's build in our drawer. So this is a little bit easier to see over here. So I'm going to isolate one of these drawers that I've already pre-built here so you can see what we're doing. So let's actually, I'm going to go into my edit settings, my view settings, and say hide rest of model when I edit one of these. Okay, so this is what a drawer looks like. So we have the face, which we just barely did, and now we need to build in all of these sides. So these sides run like this, and these sides run like this, and they are 6 inches tall. So if I grab my measurement tool here, I'm just going to pull from the corner, if I can grab this corner here down to the corner here and pull out, and you can see they're going to be 6-inch drawers, which is a fairly standard size. So let's do this side here. We'll duplicate it over and then we'll do the front here and duplicate it over. Well, actually, we're not going to duplicate this one because it's slightly different. So let's do that next. Okay, let's go ahead and create this drawer side. So I'm going to come down here and click right to this corner here, and I'm going to come up here, and I know it's going to be 6 inches, comma, by 0.5 inches. So these drawer sides, we're going to hit push pull here, click and pull towards this, and I'm going to just click this guy, if I can get over here, whoops, right to, I'm at the wrong angle here, I need to zoom out a little bit. There we go. Right to this face right here for now, so just click there. So our sides are going to be made out of a 1/2 inch plywood instead of 3/4. Now I don't want this all the way, I don't want this drawer this deep. I don't want it to hit right against this quarter edge. That's not enough wiggle room when we're constructing it. So now I'll just grab my push pull again, and I'm just going to push it back 0.5 inches and hit return to give ourselves a little bit of space. We don't want to be knocking out the back there with the drawers. Okay, let's convert this guy into a component. So triple click, Command Shift G, and we'll just call it the drawer side. Hit OK. And now let's go ahead and position it correctly. So right now it is a 1/4 inch away from this face, but I actually want a 1/2 inch. You'll of course need to, depending on what hardware you get, but I think most drawer slides are about a 1/2 inch in 1/2 inch or so inside of there. So we're going to go ahead and move this guy over a 1/2 inch. So it needs to come over a 1/4 from where it already is. So we'll just grab our move tool, grab this position here, hold down shift, click over there and say 0.25 inches and hit return. So now it's a 1/4 inch in. So this gap right there should be a 1/2 inch. Now let's just go ahead and duplicate this guy over to our other side of the dresser. So we'll just grab our move tool. We'll grab this point right here, hold down Shift and hit Option to move this guy, and we're going to click him all the way against the face right now. Whoops, wrong face. Oops, I just hit, see, I hit Command Z and I accidentally, I don't like the way this program's Command Z works, but we'll come over here and let's see if we can get the right face we want. That one. Then we're going to move him over, again, 1/4 of an inch this way. So we'll come over here, click this point, move over 0.25 inches and hit return. So there is the 2 drawer sides. Okay, let's go ahead and create this drawer front. So we're just going to come right here. We'll move over here down to there and click. Grab our push-pull tool and pull towards us 0.5 inches. And let's create a component out of that. So we're going to triple click, Command-Shift-G, call this the drawer front. And that's pretty much it. Now we're not going to duplicate him to the back because the back is going to be a little bit different. So let's do the back next. So in the back, we're going to click here on this top point. We'll move over here and just create a face right here. Push, pull out 0.5 inches in. And the only difference here is that this guy is going to be up 1/2 of an inch. So we're going to get this face right here and we're going to push in 0.5 and hit return. And because we're going to be cutting a dado out of this right here, and we're not going to have a bottom dado. The dado is only going to be in the back, the front, and the side. So let's go ahead and now triple click this and create a component. We'll call this the drawer back. So I'll jump over here to this model to demonstrate that again. But you can see that this back piece doesn't have that dado, but the other 3, the sides and the front, have the dado. And then we would just end up tacking this in from the back. Good thing about that is if you ever broke the bottom and you needed to remove it, you could just remove those tacks and slide that out and slide a new one in. So it wouldn't be all glued in. You wouldn't have to tear the drawer apart to get it at the bottom. So let's go ahead and now cut out these dados from the dresser, or the drawer rather. So now that I've got this drawer set, let's go ahead and create a group out of it. So I'm going to hold down Shift and click this guy and the face and this guy and do Command G to group all of those things. And I'm just going to move it out here so we can work on it away from the dresser a little bit. So let's just grab our move tool and I'll just get any one of these points here and we'll just come along. There we go. Pull out here a bit, come out maybe a little bit more and click. Okay, so now we've pulled that drawer out. Let's go ahead and cut the dados out. Now there's a couple different ways you can do this as far as cutting those grooves into your geometry. The way I'm going to do is just a little simple push-pull. I'll show you really quick, just a little sample here. If I were to, let's say I'm going to grab a little board like this, and I'm going to push-pull this down to be 1/4 inch, and I'm going to group this guy just for a second here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it up a little bit, and then I'm going to zoom in here and move this in a little bit. So you can see basically it's overlapping, right? Right now it's one of these is inside the other one. So what you can do is if you have 2 pieces that overlap, you could create a big piece and put it in the middle and then do this method. So you can come into your solid tools. I have them here on my board here, but you can get your subtraction tool. So we can subtract this one from this one, and you can see that it just cuts that out really nice. So that's a really cool way of just doing a little dado, and there's nothing wrong with that. It works fine. In fact, we could use it for this method. But I'm going to show you another method. So I'm going to undo that and back up a step here. So what we're going to do is we're going to use some guides and just grab a little 1/4 inch and do a push-pull out of this side right here. Okay, so this is the bottom half of the dresser we're going to be working on here. You can kind of see. And I'm going to zoom in here. So I'm going to double click to come inside of the component. So I'm working on just this individual geometry now. And let's set up a couple little guides with our tape measure. So I'll come down here and I'm going to come up 1/4 of an inch, so 0.25, and then from this point I'll come over 0.25. I'll come up 0.25 as well. So this is where my dado is going to get cut out of. So now I'm going to grab my square tool here, the rectangle tool, and I can just click down here and pull up a little shape and click right there. So I've just created a little box essentially. Now I can grab my push-pull tool and I can just click this and I can just push this all the way out, clear to the face like that. And you can see that just, I'm going to try to push it all the way, and I'm not sure why there we go. Okay, there we go. Now it went all the way out. All the way out, so it's completely empty. And now, remember, this is a duplicate of this side, so it automatically cut it out of this side as well. So I just need to flip this guy in a minute. So, perfect. Let's do that one more time. Now, before I get too far ahead of myself, I'm just going to go remove these little points. I like to just clean those guys up, and if I can select them. Let's hide this. Oh, whoops, I need to come into the geometry. There we go. So let's just hide this for a second. I can just select these and delete them. Right. And then just unhide that. So we say unhide all. Okay, so same thing we're going to do on this side over here. So let's hide this guy for a minute and we'll come down here and cut one out. So again, we'll grab our tape measure tool and just come up 0.25, come over 0.25, come up 0.25, and then we'll just grab our select tool, come into the geometry of this guy right here. So because it's a component, we need to come into the component before we create this face. Grab a rectangle tool and just grab a rectangle, get the push-pull tool, and push this guy all the way out to where it's completely gone. Okay, so now that guy's gone, we're going to do the same thing like we did before. We'll triple click and right click and say hide. And let's just get rid of these little guides here. If I can get them. Grab those and delete those. And then we'll go back and say show everything, unhide all. Okay, so we reveal all. And then we need to flip this little one around right here. So we're just going to select it, right click, say flip along the green axis, and that flips it. And now you can see we have all of those dados cut out right in the middle. And that looks pretty slick. So there's our drawer. And we need to now build this little piece that's going to fit into our drawer. So let's go ahead and build that next. So I'm just going to use the pen tool for this, or the pencil tool. So it's going to be right there. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to hold down, I'm going to follow along the red axis. I'm holding shift, but I'm going to measure it up with this face right there because that's where the dado is cut out of. So I'm going to click right there for 1 point, and then I'll spin around. And same thing over here. I'm going to make sure I'm on the green, come all the way to that point, and then we'll kind of rotate and spin around here. A little too far zoomed in, hold down red, it's going to come all the way to this point, and then we should be able to finish this off. Spin around here all the way back to where we started, which is that point. Okay, so you can see we just added that drawer bottom all the way in there. Let me zoom out and kind of pull back around over here a little bit. And now we can get our push-pull tool and just push this down 0.25 inches and hit return. And now it is right inside of that slot. Now, I don't know what I did. I probably hit Control Z like I always do when I'm messing something up and flip this guy around. So let's go ahead and create a component, and I'm going to reverse this again. So Command-Shift-G, this is just the drawer bottom. Hit Create. And I've got to flip this guy back to where he's supposed to be. And now I didn't realize he wasn't flipped before when I created that, so I've got to fix my little problem here. So this will be easy enough. I can come in here and just grab my push-pull tool and pull this face all the way to right there. There we go. So you shouldn't have to do that in yours if you did it correctly. And there we go. There's our 1/4 inch drawer bottom that slots into that dado really nicely. So just to prove this to ourselves, let's hide this side right here. Let's say hide. And you can see, sure enough, that drawer is right inside of that dado like it's supposed to be. Okay, so that is essentially one drawer done. So let's go back, double click out of there to get out of component mode. And we need to duplicate this drawer down now 3 or 4 times. So let's go ahead and do that. So just like we did before, I'm going to grab this bottom point right there. So we'll grab this bottom point, click, Option for a copy, hold down Shift, and this one's going to come right to that point. The perspective's a little bit weird, but you can see it's definitely lined up. Click, hold down Shift, right to that point. Click, Option, Shift, over to that point. Okay, so there's our 4 big drawers all lined up, and they look fine. And now we need to create our small drawer. So let's go ahead and do that next. So let's go ahead and create our last 2 drawers here at the top. And we're going to duplicate this top drawer to create those. So let's come in here and kind of just like we did before, come to this bottom point here, select that, hold down Option, and constrain along blue right to that point, so that our face is anchored to the correct bottom left there. So what we need to do now, because this is a group, remember this is a group of drawers, we need to right click and say explode. Explode's kind of like delete group, or it takes it's kind of like undo the component. So we need to explode it. So now it's not a group anymore. And we have each of these are still components. Remember, they're all copies of these bottom things. So our side 2 pieces we can leave as components, but the bottom and the back and the face we need to explode one more time to recreate the geometry. So what we're going to do is, let's start here. We'll just start with the back. So we're going to right click and say explode. And then immediately we're going to recreate a component. So we're going to create a component. We're going to call this the small drawer back and hit create. So now that we have this small drawer back, we can sort of resize it and get it down to the correct size. So let's move, before we resize this guy, we actually want to move this right part into place. So in order to do this, there's a couple of ways we can do this, but I'm going to draw a geometry line here. So I'm going to get my tape measure tool and I'm going to click right here, and I'm just going to draw a line out. You can see it's going to create a line all the way out. So that line is going right down through there. And now I know that I need to move this drawer in that distance. And again, actually 0.25 away from that. So first, let's just move it right onto there. So we'll grab the move tool, we'll grab this point right here, I guess will work. And we're going to slide along green, and we're going to click it right on that midpoint right there. Okay, where that line, I suppose, runs. You can see that line's running down through there. And next, we can move it over 1/4 inch. So now we can get it and move it over 0.25 inches so that it's, actually we need to go, sorry, we need to go 1/2 inch here. So let's move it over 1/4 more. You can just do course on yours. There's 1/4 more. 1/2 inch, so that, because over here it's 1/2 inch from this wall, it needs to be 1/2 inch away from this face as well. Okay, so now that's in place. We can easily move all the rest of our pieces over there. So we'll start here with the back. So I'll double click it, and I'm just going to do the push-pull method here. So I'm just going to push-pull this face all the way in past where I need to go. And then I can come in and click this, pivot around, and then just click right on this face right here to lock that guy in place. Okay, we're going to now do the same thing for the other 2 pieces. So we will, again, click this one, right-click it, and explode it. And then immediately create a component. So Command-Shift-G, and we'll call this the small drawer front. Hit create. Double click to move into the component. We'll grab our push-pull tool, and we're going to push this face all the way in here, and then we'll swivel around a little bit. So now we can click it, move over, and click it right to this face. And then click out of that component. We're going to explode this face. So right click, explode that face. Command Shift G, we'll call this the small drawer face. Hit create, double click to move into it, push pull this guy all the way down there. And then this guy is going to be, so we're going to pull this face all the way over to this line right here. You can see we can kind of get on that line and click. And then it needs to go 1/4 of an inch in. Or actually, sorry, not 1/4, an 1/8 is what our reveal was, I think. So we'll push it back in. 1/8, hit return. So that should be now the correct reveal. So we should have 1/8 or a 1/4 inch there. So let's now push this drawer back in. So I'm going to group all this. Oh, we have to do this bottom piece. Sorry, one more. So let's right click this, explode this, explode, and Command Shift G, and we'll call this the small drawer bottom. Hit create, double click, get our push pull, and we'll push this face. Can't really see where I'm doing here, so we're going to push this face in here, and then this will be a little bit tricky to get at here. Maybe we can get at it probably easier from this side. So let's, there we go. So I will push pull here. So I'm going to grab this face and pull it over and lock it in place right there. Okay, there we go. So now that's correct. So now we can grab all these pieces. So this piece, this piece, this piece, this piece, this piece, and this piece, and group them all, Command G. So now we have a group of all of our small drawer essentially. Now let's move it into place to see if it actually is correct now. So we'll just get our move tool. We'll grab this piece right here and we're going to move it all the way in and then line it with that face. Perfect. Okay, so that works. The only problem is that I made this one 1/8 of an inch. I couldn't remember, but I did 1/4 of an inch reveal down here. I'm actually going to change them all so that they have 1/8 of a reveal instead of 1/4. I think 1/4 is a little bit too big, but we'll do that here in a minute. So let's go ahead. Actually, let's fix this small drawer one first. So we'll come in to this guy. And let's grab our push-pull tool. Whoops, I had grabbed the wrong tool there. So we'll come in, push-pull. We'll pull this face up 0.2, nope, not 0.25, 1/8 of an inch. This one we're going to come this way, 1/8. And this bottom piece we're going to come down 1/8 because we want a little bit smaller reveal. Perfect. Okay. Now let's grab this drawer and we're gonna move it over to this other side. So we'll grab our move tool. We'll click this bottom right corner right there. Hold down Shift and then click Option. And we're gonna stick him right against this face right there. And then we'll move him over 1/4 of an inch from right here. So click, move over on green. Not 1/4, sorry, 1/8 again. Hit return. Okay, so he should be, oh boy. Apparently I did not center this middle board. That's not even close. Yeah, we have to fix this issue before we duplicate the drawer. So when I made this middle piece, I must have just drawn it on the midpoint over, and then I forgot to move it back into center. So let's go ahead and do that before we do anything else here. So let's double check and see where our midpoint is. So we'll just get out of the component here and let's just hover along this face with the move tool until we see where midpoint is. Yep, you can see that's exactly what I did. So midpoint's right on the left. So there's our midpoint. So we need to fix that issue that I did earlier. So let's get this point, this line here, and move it. Whoops. Let's get this line. So we're going to grab this line and we're going to move this line. We need to move the line this way, but on that face. Okay, so now that's lined up where it's supposed to be. Let's go ahead and turn back on our little drawer so we can say edit, unhide all. And now we need to go kind of refix those little edges there. We just barely did. So we'll do those. So again, we're going to move this little piece here, this side piece first. So it needs to be moved first. So I'm going to hide these little top pieces here. This will make this a little bit easier to see too. Well, okay. So let's come into the drawer and fix this first one. So first thing we're going to do is grab our move tool and move it right along. Get the right piece here. This one we're going to move right to this face, and then we're going to move it in 1/2 inch. So we'll click here and then come in and click anywhere 0.5 and hit return. So that's where that guy is supposed to be. This one should already be set up like that. Yep. And now we can just move all the rest of them like we did before. So we'll come into this guy and we'll get our push-pull tool. Even though I can't see the face, I'm going to try to guess at where the push-pull, nope, wrong face, right there we go. So I'll push it in, click it, and then click it right into there. So that one is okay. Now I'll do this back. Spin around to this side. Push pull this face in. And then do the same thing here. So I'm going to grab this, push pull it up here, and click that right into that face. That looks okay there. And now we got to do this piece right here. So we'll grab our push-pull, push this guy in. So he's going to come right to this face, and then we're going to come out 1/8 inch. So 1/8 to get the correct rebuild there. And then we'll lastly do the same thing on the bottom piece. So we'll, whoops, clicking too many things here. Let's hide this. Hide this back here. So now with this back piece, we'll come in here, grab our push pull, and let's get the right face. This one we'll pull in, and we'll come right to there. Whoops, we need to unhide all, sorry. Forgot I had that hidden. Unhide all, so there's the back piece. Okay, so now that small drawer should be the correct dimensions. Now we can go ahead and duplicate this guy over. So let's try that again. We will come over here and get our move tool. Click right there, option for a copy, come along green. So we'll stick him right against the face, and then again move out 1/8 inch. Okay, now that's looking nice. Perfect. So let's now move all of these drawers back into where they're supposed to go. So we're going to select all these guys, and we're going to grab our move tool and click on one piece right here and move them all along red, and just select that face right there. And there we go. And we're going to set their reveal to be the same. So we don't want this full 1/4 inch reveal. So let's come into this guy and all the way into the geometry, and we'll do the push-pull trick here. So we'll push this guy out this way, 1/8 inch. We will push the top up 1/8 inch. We'll push this one over 1/8 inch, and then the bottom will pull down 1/8 inch. Okay, perfect. So there's all of our drawers, all the big and small drawers, and now let's go ahead and add this back piece. So we'll come up here and we'll draw a face. With the rectangle tool, this one's going to be right in that corner, all the way over to that corner. We can get the right corner here. We need to make sure we get that guy. There we go. And then, nope, there we go. Make sure it snaps to the right one. Now, I can't see the bottom, so I'm just going to click right here. That's easy enough. I'll push-pull this down here in a minute. So we'll just grab our push-pull tool and we'll pull it out 1/4 of an inch. That looks fine there. And then we'll get the bottom here and we're just going to pull this down to the right face. So we'll get this bottom piece and pull it down right equal with that bottom face right there. Perfect. Now let's convert this back into a component. So we're going to triple click that, Command-Shift-G, and we'll call this the dresser back. Hit create. And our last thing to do is create the top. So we're going to delete all of these lines. We don't need those, and we don't need this one anymore either. The very last thing we're going to do here is create our dresser top. So let's just come over here and grab our tool here. And I'm going to click here and just come over and grab these lines here. And I know that I want this guy to be a little bit proud. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my move tool here and select this front face and move it out 1 inch. And then I'll select this face and come this way 1 inch, and select this face and come this way 1 inch. And I'm going to leave the back just right there flush with the back, so only the front and sides will overhang. Okay, so now that I've moved it all out, you can see they overhang a little bit. Let's just go ahead and get this guy and just move it straight up. Whoops. Let's go ahead and triple click, get our move tool, and we're just going to move it straight up on blue. So we're kind of overhanging there. So let's go ahead and get our offset tool. So we'll get our offset, we'll come in 1.5 inches. And we're going to select this and we're going to cut this out. So we're going to hit Command X. We want to cut that because we're going to paste it in later. So let's now get our pencil tool and we'll just create these little 45-degree miters right there on all these little pieces. And this next part's a little bit strange, but what we're going to do is we're going to first select a piece and group it, and then we're going to double click to go into that group and then pull it up. It's actually, I'm going to push it down. We'll push it down 0.75 inches. Okay. Then you're going to create a component out of that. So then you're going to triple click and create a component. You're going to call this the dresser top right. And then we'll do the same thing back here. So we're going to select this guy and group it, come into it, get your push-pull tool. You can just double click and it will do the exact same thing it did last time, so 0.75 inches. And then select it all, and we'll call this the dresser top back. And mine's asking me to replace because I already had one called that. And then we'll do the same thing over here. So group it, come in, get your push-pull tool, double click, spacebar, triple click, Command-Shift-G, dresser top right. And then we'll do the same thing for the front. I'm going pretty quickly here, but it's pretty repetitive. So, whoops, did I do over there? Apparently I accidentally flipped that guy. I'll fix that in a second. So we will group it, double click, push pull, triple click to turn it into a component, dresser top front, and that's pretty much it. Let me go ahead and flip this guy, flip along the, let's see, that's the green. Flip that guy back where he's supposed to be. And now we're going to paste into place that piece we cut out. So we're going to say edit, paste in place, and there comes that middle piece. We'll get our push pull and double click. It should go down 3/4 of an inch. And then we'll triple click him, turn him into a component, and we'll just call it the dresser top and create. Okay, I can't get this guy to move into place for me for the life of me, so I'm going to draw a little reference line. So we'll just create a line from right, make sure we get the right end point here. That point all the way through on red, so that should be able to help us snap now. So we get the move tool, get this guy, come straight down on blue right to that point. There we go. So now we can just get rid of that little line, and that's in place. So let's go back and reveal all, unhide all. So all of our pieces are back in place. And that is now the finished dresser. So you can see that we've got all of our components. If we hide these one by one, our dresser is all built in there beautifully. So I hope you enjoyed this modeling video in SketchUp 3D. If you want to see how to do the cut lists, that'll be the next video in this series. So we'll take all these, we'll add materials to all of these boards and generate cut lists using a couple of extensions. So go ahead and check that one out next.
Okay, me rapping the song. Don't forget to subscribe. Click the buttons. Yo, your mom would do it.
No, don't do that, no.
Yeah, I'm uploading it.
No.